Dear students, welcome to yet another lecture of your preparatory module for CLAT examination. The subject is English, and in this lecture, we are going to practice note making. In the last lecture, I have given you some hint about what note making practices are and why they are important. As you all know, in CLAT examination and in other law related examinations, you'll be asked various comprehension questions based on the passages given. At times, especially with factual paragraphs, they are overloaded with information. So, in order to carve out information meaningfully, you need to resort to certain note making tactics. And five such techniques we are going to discuss in this particular lecture. Now, the course outline would be something like this. First, we'll discuss boxing method in introduction, followed by practice passage 1, 2, and 3. The first passage would be of basic module, the second would be of intermediate level, and the third would be of advanced level. We then move on to outline method, Cornell method, mapping method, and finally, charting method. The reason behind discussing these methods in detail is that you can choose any one of these methods, and while you practice solving unseen paragraph, you can inculcate any of these methods and you can continue your practice. Now, what advantage this will give you would be to make sure that you note down information in a specific manner, because at times what happens, you have to go back to the paragraph for a lot of information. Now, in a time bound examination, every time going back and forth would take a lot of time. So the best bet would be to note down all the relevant pieces of information in one go, and as and when you need it, you refer to your notes, you refer to those small information that you've written down, and you answer questions accordingly. And that is the relevance of note making. And that's why note making is important for a student who would appear for, say, 4 or 5 passages in a single examination, that too in a given span of time. Now, let's move first. Note taking methods. Now, the 5 type of note taking methods are boxing, outline, Cornell, mapping, and charting. And in this module, we are going to discuss all these methods at length and we are going to practice. However, I need to give a disclaimer before we start discussing. First, all these methods might look easy when we discuss them here in this class. However, these methods are easier said than done, and you need a fair bit of practice before you can claim that you know these methods and you can implement these methods in your examination. Now, before wasting any more time, let's move for the first method. Now, the first method is boxing method. Here's a pictorial representation for you that how boxing method looks like. The boxing method requires you to put your notes into some relevant boxes. Here, we can have 2 themes that can come as main topic A and main topic B. Given the fact that your paragraphs comes in, the entire stanza comes in 2 paragraphs, you can make 2 boxes and then you can write main topic A and main topic B, which could be the themes. And then in further boxes, subtopic A, key point A, B, C, subtopic B, subtopic C, so on and so forth. From this arrangement, whenever you need any relevant information for any question, rather than reading the entire paragraph again, you can refer to these notes and you can tick the correct answer. Now, for example, here I have passage 1, which happens to be easy. Now, it says you can either read with me or you can pause this entire passage, the video, and you can read it by yourself and jot down the main points. Now, the arrangement in this lecture would be, we'll be first reading the passage, followed by the main points, and then those main points will be arranged in the form of a paragraph. Now, having said that, this entire process of writing the main points is being done only to facilitate things here. However, if you don't wish to write main points, then you can skip that and you can directly arrange them in a note making format, whichever you choose in the exam. This time around, however, we are arranging them in main point format first and then putting them into the specific format. That is only to facilitate the discussion, nothing else. Now, the first passage one, which happens to be easy. The Indian diaspora gathered in large numbers, waving flags and carrying pictures of the Prime Minister, expressing their enthusiasm. Speaking to ANI, a diaspora member remarked, "We are excited for this moment. We wanted to meet the leader of one of the largest democracies in the world." Another member said, "It's an honor to see him in person. It is a proud moment for us." Earlier, PM Modi shared his anticipation for the summit, posting, "Landed in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil to take part in the G20 summit. I look forward to the summit deliberations and fruitful talks with various world leaders." The summit holds special significance as India, a TRIOCA member, plays a key role in shaping the agenda while passing the presidency baton to Brazil. During his visit to Nigeria, PM Modi held discussions with Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, focusing on cooperation in defense, health, technology, and education. Now, that's passage one. Now, moving on. Now, these are the main points that could be inferred from this particular passage. First, PM Modi arrived in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil to participate in the G20 summit. Taking a detour, students, whenever you read any paragraph, there could be some pieces of information that would be outright factual. However, some pieces of information would have to be inferred. Now, what I suggest you do, all these pieces of information, you need to jot down as main points because you infer things right after you read them. Okay, so this process of inferring happens parallelly to the process of reading. So, if you want to answer an inference based question, say 10 minutes after reading the paragraph, it might tough for you to remember that. So what I suggest, you keep noting down these inferences as a part of your notes as well. Otherwise, for any question that is based on your inference, you again have to read the entire thing. And that takes a lot of time. And in a time-bound examination, 2 to 3 minutes for every question collectively, takes away, say, 10 minutes or 12 minutes in one reading comprehension passage. And that might cost you dearly towards the end of the examination. So coming back, so what are the main points? First, PM Modi arrived in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil to participate in the G20 summit. Large numbers of the Indian diaspora gathered, excited to meet PM Modi. Third, he shared his anticipation for the summit and his eagerness for fruitful discussions with world leaders. The summit is especially important as India is a Troika member, playing a key role in shaping the agenda. India will pass the G20 presidency to Brazil during the summit. Also, it is being told us that the Prime Minister visited Nigeria, and during his visit to Nigeria, PM Modi held talks with Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The discussions focused on strengthening cooperation in defense, health, technology, and education. So, out and out, these are the things that are given in the passage. Now, if you can see here, this is how I've made notes on it. Now, thematically, there are two divisions to this. First, PM Modi in G20, and then the subtopic one is what is about G20, crucial for India, held in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And in India, it's important for India as a Troika member. Then PM Modi's arrival, he was greeted by Indian diaspora in large numbers and people were excited to meet him. The third is summit's agenda. India look forward to cooperation with members and will pass the presidency baton to Brazil. Now, this was thematically the first part, and the second part talks about PM Modi in Nigeria. Now, the outline of visit was that PM Modi held talks with the Nigerian president and talked about cooperation in defense, health, technology, and education. Okay, so that's how you make notes in boxing method. Now, coming on to the second passage, which is of intermediate level. Now, either you can read it quickly with me, or you can pause this video and you can take a look and make sure you jot down the major points. Okay, now the global community gathered with anticipation for the United Nations Climate Change Conference in Dubai, where world leaders, environmentalists, and experts came together to discuss the pressing issue of climate change. Delegates from over 190 countries arrived at the venue, eager to share solutions and collaborate on long term strategies to combat global warming. Speaking to the press, a climate scientist stated, "This conference represents a crucial turning point. We must unite to tackle the environmental challenges that threaten our future." Another delegate added, "We need immediate concrete actions to reduce carbon emissions and protect vulnerable ecosystems." Ahead of this conference, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres emphasized the urgency of addressing climate change, tweeting, "We're at a critical juncture. The next decade will determine the planet's future." With discussions centered on renewable energy, sustainable development, and international cooperation, the conference aims to accelerate global efforts to create a more sustainable world for future generations. So, out and out, message about the concern of global community about climate change and how it can impact us and the future generations, and why it is crucial to address the important aspect of climate change. Now, let's look at the main points here, students. In order to facilitate the discussion, I've jotted down all the points. Now, for some of you, some of these might not be worth noting down because you'll remember this. However, since a variety of students will have access to this particular lecture, I've made sure to jot down most of the points and turn them into a specific format that we are discussing, so that you must know what to do. However, as per your ease and as per your memory, you can scrutinize what to include and what not to include. Now, the main points are: the United Nations Climate Change Conference took place in Dubai with significant anticipation. Okay. It brought together world leaders, environmentalists, and experts to add climate change from over 190 countries to collaborate and share solutions. The next one is: the goal was to develop long term strategies to combat global warming. All right. A climate scientist emphasized the importance of unity to tackle environmental challenges. Okay. Another delegate called for immediate concrete actions to reduce carbon emissions and protect ecosystems. Now, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres stressed the urgency of addressing climate change and that the next decade is critical for planet's future. All right. Discussions focused on renewable energy, sustainable development, and international cooperation. And the conference aimed to accelerate global efforts to build a sustainable world for future generations. And this is how we need to put them into boxes. First, UN Climate Change Conference. Now, thematically, this entire paragraph was one single theme. At times, you might find two or three themes in a long paragraph, because we've recently seen that in law examinations, there were paragraphs of as long as 920 words. So, when it's a long paragraph of, say, 900 plus words, you might find some thematic discrepancies, as in there could be more than one theme, or perhaps there are many sub themes of one single theme discussed. Now, let's see how we've put this into the boxes. Now, first, UN Climate Change Conference, goal and vision, organization, okay, that it took place in Dubai and delegates from 190 countries participated. Then discussion, how the discussion was held, okay, so on and so forth. Now, come to passage number 3. Now, the passage number 3 is an advanced level of passage. Stoicism. Here we are talking about an ancient Greek philosophy, Stoicism. Stoicism, an ancient Greek philosophy, has gained significant attention in recent years due to its practical approach to life's challenges. Central to Stoicism is the idea that we should focus on controlling our thoughts and reactions, rather than trying to change external circumstances which are often beyond our influence. The Stoics argued that the pursuit of virtue, defined as wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, should be our ultimate goal, as these qualities lead to true happiness. This mindset encourages individuals to approach life's hardships with emotional resilience, accepting what cannot be changed while working to improve what is within their power. In today's fast paced world, where stress and uncertainty are common, many people are turning to Stoic principles as a way to cultivate a sense of inner peace. By practicing self discipline and prioritizing personal growth, individuals can find balance even amidst the chaos of modern life. All right. Now that's a small passage about Stoicism. Now let's very quickly look at the main points. Now, when it comes to the passages that require some higher level of inference from you, it becomes very important to read those paragraphs very carefully. Now, let's very quickly look at the main points. Stoicism is an ancient Greek philosophy that has gained attention in recent years for its practical approach to life's challenges. Focus on controlling thoughts and reactions rather than trying to change external circumstances. External circumstances are often beyond our control, so Stoics believe we should work on internal responses. Stoics believe that the ultimate goal is to pursue virtues like wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These virtues lead to true happiness and fulfillment. Out and out, this is based on the philosophy of Stoics and what Stoicism is believed to be. The next point is Stoicism encourages emotional resilience by accepting what cannot be changed and working to improve what is within one's control. The next point is that in today's fast paced world, where stress and uncertainty are common, many people turn to Stoicism to find inner peace. And the last is practicing self discipline and focusing on personal growth helps individuals find balance amid the chaos of modern life. Now, these could possibly be the main and the most significant points that could be inferred or factually that could be read from the passage. Now, this is how we've put them into boxes. Now, see, the title here is Stoicism. Then, overview and central idea of Stoicism. Okay, ancient Greek philosophy, practical approach to life's challenges. Now, the focus, controlling thoughts and reactions, and what they believe that we should work on internal responses. Now, there's a special mention of virtue and resilience. So, ultimate goal is to pursue virtues like wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance for true happiness. And what Stoicism encourages emotional resilience, a firm control on your emotions, and then relevance and benefits. In today's world, many people turn to Stoicism to find inner peace, and practicing self discipline and focusing on personal growth helps individuals find balance. Okay, now that's how you can approach, and that's how you can find to write all the major points. Now, in all the three paragraphs that we have discussed, one common thing that you can find is that in the note format, we have written most of the relevant information from which any question could be asked. And if you can develop a practice of jotting down major points like this, you don't have to read the passage again and again for finding the answer to every single question. Okay, that will ease up things for you. However, like I said, it will take substantial practice to come to this particular level. However, if you can develop an art of arranging facts like this, it will save a lot of time in the examination. Having said that, let's move on to outline method. So the next method we are going to discuss, dear students, is outline method. Now, this is the most common method that you might have come across even while studying in your school. In outline method, you organize your notes with a main topic, then a subtopic that is indented to the right below it, then supporting facts that are further indented to the right below that. Now you can take a pictorial representation of how outline method would work. Now let's see passage. Now again, passage 1. is an easy passage. Let's quickly go through this particular passage. What it says that India has successfully tested a domestically developed long range hypersonic missile, it said on Sunday, attaining a key milestone in military development that puts it in a small group of nations possessing the advanced technology. The global push for hypersonic weapon figures in the efforts of some countries, such as India, which is striving to develop advanced long range missiles along with China, Russia, and the United States. The Indian missile, developed by state run DRDO, that stands for Defense Research and Development Organization and industry partners, is designed to carry payloads for ranges exceeding 1500 kilometers, that is 930 miles, for the armed forces, the government said in a statement. The flight data confirmed the successful terminal maneuvers and impact with high degree of accuracy, it added. The test firing took place from Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Island off the eastern coast of Odisha state on Saturday, it said. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh called the test a historic achievement. Now, a fairly easy, straightforward passage. Now, what are the main points of this particular passage? Not tough to decipher, but there are points for you nonetheless. Here, India successfully tested a domestically developed long-range hypersonic missile. This milestone places India among a small group of nations with this advanced technology. Hypersonic weapons are a focus for countries like India, China, Russia, and the United States who are working on advanced missile systems. The missile was developed by India's Defense Research and Development Organization with industry partners. It is designed to carry payloads for distances exceeding 1500 kilometers, that is 930 miles. The missile successfully performed terminal maneuvers and impacted with high accuracy as confirmed by flight data. The test firing took place at Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Island, located off the eastern coast of Odisha state, and Defense Minister Rajnath Singh hailed the test as historic achievement. Now, these are the main points. Now, let's carefully look at how we put these points in a note format here. Now we have seen three major heads. First, successful test of hypersonic missile, then global efforts to an Indian hypersonic missile, and the third is test. Now, the first point and then further indented to the right is the sub points. That is, India successfully tested what? Domestically developed long-range hypersonic missile. Now, one thing that I must mention here, that whenever you write notes, you use a lot of symbols like we discussed in the last lecture. A lot of symbols are used. Okay. So you need not worry about the grammatical accuracy. Why? Because you are there to take a relook at the facts as in when you require notes. So grammatical accuracy might not be needed and a lot of symbols and signs are used. Okay. So that you can understand the gist of the information provided. The second point is this milestone places India among a small group of nations with this advanced technology. Second, global efforts and Indian hypersonic missile. Hypersonic weapons focus on countries like India, China, Russia, and the US who are working on advanced missile systems. It's developed by DRDO with industry partners to carry payloads for distance exceeding 1500 miles, 1500 kilometers or 930 miles. And the final is test successfully performed with high accuracy at Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Island, Odisha. Now, these are the major points and that's how we put it across. Now, for the very same thing, let's go to passage 2, that is intermediate. Now, let's take a look at what this passage says. Now, in recent years, the global defense landscape has seen significant shifts with countries prioritizing the modernization of their armed forces. The United States and China have particularly focused on advancing their technological capabilities such as artificial intelligence and cyber warfare. A senior defense official remarked, "The future of warfare is increasingly digital and we must ensure our military is prepared for new threats." Meanwhile, India has strengthened its defense partnership with countries like Japan and Australia to bolster security in the Indo-Pacific region. As tensions rise in areas such as the South China Sea, experts stress the importance of strategic alliance and military readiness. Defense ministers meeting at an international summit recently emphasized the need for greater cooperation on counterterrorism and peacekeeping efforts. With global conflicts becoming more complex, nations are adjusting their defense strategies to maintain stability and safeguard national interests. Now, what are the main points here? So, here are the main points that countries globally are prioritizing advancements in their military technology, and we are particularly referring to the US and China. The US and China are heavily investing in AI and cyber warfare as key aspects of future warfare. As we all know, AI is the future, and so is AI in the cyber warfare. Now, what India is doing, India is strengthening ties with nations like Japan and Australia to enhance security in the Indo Pacific region, increase tensions, especially in areas like the South China Sea, underscore the importance of alliances and readiness. Defense ministers at an international summit stressed the need for greater collaboration in counterterrorism and peacekeeping, and that nations are adapting their defense strategies to manage more complex conflicts, aiming to maintain stability and protect national interests. All right. Now, this is how we need to put this entire information into a note format. While your practice would be good enough, you need not to jot down the main points like this. You will straight away come to making notes like this, but that will require some bit of practice. Here we have made three heads. First, modernization. Countries prioritizing advancements in their military technology, particularly US and China, heavily investing in AI and warfare. Second, strategic defense partnerships, that India is strengthening ties with nations like Japan, Australia to enhance security in the Indo Pacific region. And then increased geopolitical differences underscore the importance of alliances and readiness. Now, this is something different from the first point that was thematically based on AI and the use of AI in the future warfare. Here we are talking about strategic defense partnership, okay, strengthening the alliances, especially with context to India. And third, we talk about global cooperation and global conflicts. Now, if you see carefully, thematically, all the three are different themes in the same passage. Where first talks about modernization of warfare and what role AI plays. The second talks about strategic defense partnership with context to India. And third talks about global cooperation and global conflicts. Because we know in international warfare and in international politics, cooperation matters a lot. And that's why, we have diplomatic relations with a lot of countries, because at times diplomacy helps around. And they say a very notable statement about international relationship, that nations don't have any permanent friends or any permanent enemies. They have permanent interests. Okay. And that stands in every age. All right. So just a detour. Anyway, coming back, there are three thematic things that we have seen, okay, in three different points. All right, now let's come to passage 3, which is an advanced level of passage. Now it says the advancement of space exploration technology has entered an epoch characterized by unprecedented private public partnership and technological convergence. SpaceX's reusable rocket systems have shattered previous cost barriers, opening up the once elite domain of space to commercial ventures. Okay. The paradigm shift extends beyond cost efficiency. The reusable Falcon rockets and the Starship project represent key milestones in the transition from Earth-bound operations to long-duration interplanetary missions. Concurrently, artificial intelligence has emerged as a critical enabler, optimizing trajectory planning, enhancing autonomous spacecraft operations, and even analyzing vast datasets from space missions. As the Artemis program aims to reestablish a permanent human presence on the moon, the exploration of Mars looms as the next frontier. However, the integration of AI and autonomous systems introduces new ethical and safety concerns, such as algorithmic decision making in an unanticipated space environments. The confluence of these technologies promises to expand humanity's reach, but also compels careful reflection on governance and risk management in extraterrestrial contexts. Okay, now let's very quickly look at the main points here. Now, here, what they're discussing is the modern space exploration, a collaboration between private companies and public entities. At one point in time, they say that private companies wouldn't really think of any space exploration. However, with SpaceX, now this has become a possibility. The second point is SpaceX's reusable rocket systems have significantly reduced costs, making space accessible to commercial ventures. Projects like Falcon rockets and Starship are pivotal. AI is optimizing trajectory planning and enhancing autonomous spacecraft operations. AI also aids in analyzing massive datasets from space missions. The Artemis program focuses on establishing a permanent human presence on the moon. Mars is the next goal. And then the integration of advanced technologies in space exploration requires careful consideration of governance, risk management, and ethical implications. Now, let's see. Now, there are the four heads that we've taken. First is modern space exploration, collaboration between private companies and public entities, SpaceX's reusable rocket systems. Now, for the sub points, we have intended them to further write reduced costs, made space accessible to commercial ventures, and the example is Falcon rockets and Starship. Now, let's talk about artificial intelligence, optimizing trajectory planning, enhancing autonomous spacecraft operations, aids in analyzing massive datasets from space missions. Third is the Artemis program. It focuses on human presence on the moon, and the next goal happens to be Mars. And the fourth is advanced technologies in space exploration. Now, it requires careful consideration of governance, risk management, and ethical implications. So, what you see, if we go back, what you see is a complex passage can be simplified into the major points. And any question or every question perhaps that could possibly be asked from this passage will come from this information only, nothing else. Now, moving forward to the next way would be Cornell method. Now, Cornell method again is a quite popular method of note making. In Cornell method, what we do, you can see the pictorial representation on the screen. In Cornell method, you write keywords to the left and main points in the right and place the summary at the bottom of the table. Okay, so you see on the top title, then to the left, you write the keywords. Okay, main points you write in the right side, and on the bottom, you write summary. Okay, now let's move ahead. Passage 1, which is of easy level. Let's see what this passage says. India's Tata Electronics has agreed to buy a majority stake in Taiwanese contract manufacturers Pegatron's only iPhone plant in India, forming a new joint venture that strengthens Tata's position as an Apple supplier. Under the deal announced internally last week, Tata will hold 60% and run daily operations under the joint venture, while Pegatron will hold the rest and provide technical support, said the two sources who declined to be named as the details are not yet public. The sources did not elaborate on the financials of the deal. Reuters was the first to report in April. Then Pegatron had the backing of Apple and was holding advanced talks to sell its only iPhone plant in India to Tata, marking the Taiwanese firm's latest scale back of its Apple partnership. Apple is looking to diversify its supply chain beyond China. For India, the Chennai Pegatron plant will bolster its iPhone manufacturing plans. Like we all know that India is one of the biggest markets for Apple to operate after the US. So here, this particular passage, as one can easily figure out, talks about Pegatron and Tata deal. Now, the main points are Tata Electronics is acquiring a 60% majority stake in Pegatron's only iPhone manufacturing plant in India. Tata will handle daily operations while Pegatron retains 40% and provides a technical support. Apple supports the deal as a part of its effort to diversify its supply chain outside of China. The Chennai Pegatron plant will play a significant role in expanding iPhone manufacturing in India. And Pegatron's move to sell plant aligns with its reduced involvement in Apple partnerships. All right. Now, see if we were to put them in notes, how we would do that as per Cornell method. Now, Tata Pegatron joint venture, the main points are there in the left, that is Tata Electronics, Pegatron, Chennai plant, Apple supply chain and diversification. To the right, we see some major points, that is Tata Electronics is acquiring a 60% majority stake in Pegatron's only iPhone manufacturing plant in India. Tata will handle daily operations while Pegatron retains 40% and provides technical support. The Chennai Pegatron plant will play a significant role in expanding iPhone manufacturing in India, and then Apple supports the deal as part of its efforts to diversify its supply chain outside of China. The summary of the matter is that Tata Electronics has partnered with Pegatron to acquire a majority stake in its iPhone manufacturing plant in Chennai, marking a significant step in Apple's diversification of its supply chain beyond China. Tata will manage operations while Pegatron retains 40% to offer technical expertise. Collaboration highlights India's growing importance in the global iPhone production. As simple as that. Okay, now moving on to the next passage, which is of intermediate level, that talks about sustainable farming. Now, sustainable farming practices have become a key focus of agricultural policy worldwide as governments and organizations look to address climate change and food security concerns. In India, the government has launched several initiatives to promote organic farming and reduce reliance on chemical fertilizers. A farmer in Punjab shared, "We are seeing positive results from switching to organic methods. It's better for our land and health." Internationally, agricultural experts are urging farmers to adopt water efficient technologies, especially in regions facing droughts. The UN's Food and Agriculture Organization has called for urgent action to support small scale farmers who face significant challenges in adapting to changing weather patterns. The global demand for sustainable food production is growing, and many nations are increasing investment in agricultural innovation to ensure food security for future generations. Cooperation between governments, researchers, and farmers is seen as essential for achieving these goals. Now, the main points of this, again, not very hard to understand, is that sustainable farming is a key area of agricultural policy due to climate change and the food security challenges. And what Indian government is doing here, as given in the passage, Indian government is promoting organic farming and reducing chemical fertilizer use. All right. Farmers in India are observing benefits from organic farming for soil and health. As you know, organic agricultural products are beneficial for our health as well, and they don't deteriorate the fertility of the land as well, which is otherwise being deteriorated by a lot of pesticides that farmers often use. Though they are more cost effective, however, they put a toll on the soil, on the fertility of soil, and on human health. Global experts recommend water saving techniques, especially in drought prone areas. The FAO highlights the need for urgent support for small scale farmers struggling with climate adaptation, and nations are investing in agricultural innovation to meet global demand for sustainable food production. And cooperation among governments, researchers, and farmers is critical to achieving sustainable agricultural goals. Now, that's how we put it across like this. The main points here to the left, that is sustainable farming, organic farming, water efficient technologies, and sustainable food production. Now, as you know, sustainable farming to the right, if you read, now sustainable farming is a key area of agricultural policy due to climate change and food security challenges. The Indian government is promoting organic farming and reducing chemical fertilizer use. Farmers are also observing benefits from it. Global experts recommend water saving technologies, especially in drought prone areas. The FAO highlights the need for urgent support for small scale farmers struggling with climate adaptation. Here, one thing that must be noted is that you don't have to note down every point from the passage. You have to note down the important points or perhaps the gist of the important points. And nations are investing in agricultural innovation to meet increasing global demand for sustainable food production, and cooperation among governments, researchers, and farmers is critical to achieving sustainable agriculture goals. Now, let's look at the summary. Sustainable farming is gaining prominence in global agricultural policies to combat climate change and ensure food security. In India, government initiatives encourage organic farming with farmers reporting benefits for soil health. For soil and health, globally, experts emphasize water efficient technologies and support for small scale farmers adapting to climate shifts. As demand for sustainable food grows, international cooperation and investments in innovation are essential for creating resilient agricultural systems. All right, so that's the way you need to put across the entire thing in notes. Now, very quickly, let's go for the third passage. The third passage talks about Indian aesthetics. So let's see what's here. Indian aesthetics, particularly within the framework of Rus theory, offers an intricate blend of metaphysical and emotional experience, transcending Western conceptions of beauty as formal harmony or sensory pleasure. The Natya Shastra, attributed to Bharat Muni, presents Ras not merely as a sensory reaction but as a deeply spiritual and transformative experience. It is through Ras that an artwork or performance transports the viewer from the mundane to the transcendental, elevating ordinary perception into a deeper contemplation of life and consciousness. The nine primary rasa, ranging from Shringar to Veer, are non static emotions but dynamic expressions that interact with the viewer's internal state, drawing them into a collective, often mystical experience. This nuanced understanding aligns with the Indian notion of sahaja, that is spontaneous beauty, which suggests that the true beauty arises from an alignment with the natural order of the universe rather than artificial constructs. Thus, Indian aesthetics integrates art, philosophy, and spirituality in a unified vision of human experience. Now, let's see the major points that could be inferred that rasa in Indian philosophy transcends to the Western idea of beauty by integrating metaphysical and emotional dimensions. Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra presents ras as a transformative spiritual experience rather than just a sensory reaction. These range from Shringara, that is erotic love, to Veer, that is heroism, serving as dynamic expressions that engage with the viewer's internal state. Art and performance elevate perception from mundane to spiritual contemplation, offering a collective or mystical experience. True beauty in Indian aesthetics arises spontaneously from alignment with universe's natural order rather than artificial constructs. Indian aesthetics combine art, philosophy, and spirituality to create a unified human experience. Now, these are the main points, and that's how we need to put them in the note format. That to the left. Now, what are the major words, the keywords here? That is Ras theory, Nat Shastra, nine Ras, Sahaj, and transcendental. Now, to the right, what says that the Indian concept transcends the Western idea of beauty by integrating metaphysical and emotional dimensions. Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra presents Ras as a transformative spiritual experience rather than just a sensory reaction. These ranged from Shringar, that is erotic love, to Veer, that is heroism, serving as dynamic expressions that engage with viewers' internal state. Art and performance elevate perception from mundane to spiritual contemplation, offering a collective or mystical experience. True beauty in Indian aesthetics arises spontaneously from alignment with the universe's natural order rather than artificial constructs. And Indian aesthetics combines art, philosophy, and spirituality to create a unified human experience. Now let's look at the summary. Indian aesthetics, rooted in the Natya Shastra and Ras theory, views beauty as a transformative spiritual experience that transcends sensory pleasure or formal harmony. The nine rasa dynamically interact with viewers' emotions, fostering a mystical connection This approach aligns with the concept of Sahaj, emphasizing natural and universal order as the source of true beauty. Integrating art, philosophy, and spirituality, Indian aesthetics provides a holistic vision of human experience. All right, now the second last one here we discuss is mapping method. Okay, now mapping method is crucially information when there's a lot of factual information given in a particular passage. In mapping method, what do? We graphically represent ideas by keeping the main point under a circle and connecting other circles, constituting subtopic, consisting of subtopics, and hence a map like uh, uh, you know a diagram is created, as you can see in the pictorial representation. For example, in the first passage, okay, let's see what it says. Apple supplier Foxconn has ordered the hiring agents that help recruit iPhone assembly workers in India to remove age, gender, and marital criteria, as well as the manufacturer's name in job advertisements, according to three people familiar with the matter and almost a dozen ads reviewed by Reuters. The moves follow a Reuters investigation published on June 25, which found that Foxconn excluded married women from jobs at its main India iPhone assembly plant, though it relaxed the practice during high production periods. Foxconn, which employs thousands of women at the iPhone factory at Sriperumbudur near Chennai, outsourced recruitment of assembly line workers to third party vendors. These agents scout for and screen candidates who ultimately are interviewed and selected by Foxconn. Reuters reviewed job ads posted by Foxconn's Indian hiring vendors between June 23 and May 24, which stated that only unmarried women of specified ages were eligible for smartphone assembly roles. Again, prima facie, what we can say that there are certain discrepancies, certain discrimination that is coming in to the way you hire people, and that unmarried women are avoided, again, which is again the inclusive recruitment policies of any multinational company like Apple. Here here are the main points. Foxconn has instructed recruitment agents to remove age, gender, marital status, and the company's name from job advertisers for iPhone assembly workers in India. A Reuters investigation revealed that Foxconn previously excluded married women from assembly roles at its main iPhone plant in India, although this restriction was relaxed during peak production periods. Again, a kind of discrepancy or irregularity that we see in the recruitment patterns. Now, Foxconn employs external agencies to recruit assembly line workers who are then interviewed and selected by the company. Between January 23 and May 24, job ads posted by Foxconn vendors specified that only unmarried women within certain age ranges were eligible for the roles. Now, see here, that's how we need to put that across. See, first, the center line, that is Foxconn hiring practices in India. First, issues identified, then Foxconn's response, then the recruitment process, and then the previous practice. Now, that's how you need to map this entire information. Okay, quite striking to the eyes as well. All right, now let's move ahead. Passage 2, which is of intermediate level. In a landmark diplomatic move, several countries came together to form a new international coalition aimed at addressing global migration challenges. As you know, migration is a big challenge. In the coalition, which includes nations from Europe, Africa, and Latin America, seeks to provide better protection and support for refugees and displaced persons. A representative from the European Union marked migration is a global issue that requires collective action and shared responsibility. Discussions at the recent summit focused on improving border security, enhancing refugee settlement programs, and addressing the root causes of displacement, such as conflict and climate change. The coalition's efforts also aim to foster greater cooperation between countries to manage migration in a humane and sustainable way. With migration numbers continuing to rise, international cooperation is seen as vital to ensuring that both migrant rights and national security are balanced. Now, here, very quickly, let's take a look at the main points. A new coalition is established to address global migration challenges with member nations from Europe, Africa, and Latin America, with the major objective to manage refugees and displaced persons. The areas of focus includes security improvement, refugee resettlement, and addressing root causes of displacement like conflict and climate change. And as we all know, the remaining points, global cooperation is essential for addressing migration issues effectively. Collective action and shared responsibility emphasized by the European Union, and migration numbers are increasing globally, making international efforts critical and much required at this juncture. Now, that's how you map this information. At the center, tackling the global migration challenges. That what exactly is the theme of this particular passage that we have studied? Tackling the global migration challenges. Again, formation of coalition, then objectives of that coalition, then key areas of focus, and why global cooperation is required. All right, now let's look at the last passage for mapping method. The dark web, a concealed segment of the internet accessible only through specialized software like Tor, poses significant threats due to its anonymity and lack of regulation. While it offers a haven for privacy advocates and whistleblowers, it has also become a breeding ground for illicit activities. Criminal enterprises leverage this hidden network for trafficking drugs, weapons, and human beings, as well as for disturbing malware and stolen data. Cyber criminals exploit the anonymity to orchestrate ransomware attacks, sell hacking tools, and conduct identity theft, often targeting individuals, corporations, and even governments. The decentralized and encrypted nature of the dark web makes law enforcement's efforts to monitor and dismantle these networks challenging. Moreover, the rise of cryptocurrencies has further fueled its growth by providing untraceable payment methods. The dark web's unchecked environment thus underscores the urgent need for global cooperation to develop strategies addressing the legal, ethical, and technological complexities it presents. Okay. Now, this particular passage talks about the challenges of dark web. Now, you see the main points. The dark web is a concealed part of the internet accessible only through specialized tools or software like Tor. It enables anonymity, attracting both privacy advocates and criminals. And later on, we have all the major points. And now that's how the pictorial representation of this particular passage looks like. At the center, the dark web. Okay, now what is the dark web? Okay, hidden part of the internet, and it ensures anonymity. Okay, used for illegal activities, cyber criminals often exploit it. And what are the challenges for law enforcement agencies? Okay, so that's how you need to present information. Here, the last is charting method. Now, the charting method is done by organizing notes into a table with distinct rows and columns separated by categories. For example, passage 1. The Tata Group can now fully concentrate on the critical task of building the new Air India with the distractions and uncertainties of the Vistara merger behind it. Campbell Wilson, CEO of Air India, said after the official merger of Vistara with Air India on November 12. The Air India's operational practices, standards, and business approach will largely be modeled on Vistara, Wilson said. With the Vistara people coming into Air India, together with a lot of people coming from outside Vistara and Air India altogether, the intention is very much to make Air India not just like Vistara but better. So a paragraph about merger of Air India and Vistara. Now here are the main points. Okay, let's quickly take a look at the main points. The Tata Group can now focus on building New Air India after the merger with Vistara. Okay, the CEO of Air India, so on and so forth. Now, how to put across this entire thing as per the charting method that we have discussed. Again, let me remind you, this is the charting method. Okay, now here, the merger and the future plans. First, the title, that is Tata Vistara merger. Now, to my left, there's a heading named merger, and to the right, thematically, what are the future plans that are being said. And that's how we need to present it. Okay. So now very quickly come to the next, that is intermediate level of passage. The global financial system is undergoing significant transformation as digital currencies gain traction across the world. Countries like China and the European Union are exploring the potential of central bank digital currencies, that is, CBDCs, to streamline payment and reduce dependence on cash. A senior economist explained CBDCs could revolutionize the way we conduct transactions, offering faster and more secure financial services. Meanwhile, cryptocurrency markets have seen growing volatility, with some nations tightening regulations to prevent illegal activities. The rise of fintech companies has also brought innovation to traditional banking, with mobile banking apps and peer-to-peer lending platforms gaining popularity. However, experts warn that the digital financial systems must be carefully regulated to prevent fraud and ensure stability. As the digital economy continues to expand, policymakers face the challenge of balancing innovation with financial security to ensure that future growth is sustainable and inclusive. Now, here are the main points. That is, digital currencies are transforming the global financial system, gaining traction worldwide. Countries like China and groups like the EU are exploring CBDCs to streamline payments and reduce cash dependence. CBDCs offer potential for faster, more secure financial transactions, according to the experts. Cryptocurrency markets are volatile, prompting tighter regulations in some nations to curb illegal activities. Fintech innovations, including mobile banking apps and peer to peer lending, are reshaping traditional banking. And then the experts emphasize the need for regulation in digital financial systems to prevent fraud and maintain stability. Policymakers face the challenge of balancing innovation with financial security to ensure sustainable and inclusive growth. Now, quite a bit of information is given in this particular passage. And let's see how we need to put it across. The major points: first, something about digital currencies, that is to my left, and then to the right is cryptocurrency and fintech. Okay, and at the top there's the title, that is digital financial system. And last, let's move towards the advanced level of passage. In the tradition of Western existentialism, Jean-Paul Sartre's assertion that existence precedes essence represents a radical departure from classical metaphysics, where essentialist philosophers like Aristotle posited a fixed human nature tied to purpose and moral essence. Sartre argued that human beings are condemned to freedom to define themselves in the absence of any preordained essence. This existential freedom, however, comes with the weight of responsibility and the existential anxiety of making choices that defines one's identity. Sartre's critique of essentialism extends into his views of human relationships, where he contends that the other objectifies us, reducing our existence to their perceptions. This tension between self definition and the gaze of others opens up questions about the limits of freedom and the inevitability of existential conflict. Existentialism, in its engagement with absurdity and alienation, challenges conventional understandings of morality, identity, and the human condition, influencing philosophy, psychology, and the literature. And these are the main points. And finally, that's how we need to theoretically bifurcate. To my left, what Sartre has said, and then the self definition and gaze of the other. That's how we need to put it across in this particular format. Now, guys, which strategy to use in the examination? For your CLAT exam, you have to make your own choice whether to make notes on any specific method. Note format, however, would be preferred over scribbling the main points and again going back, to the main passage. The preferred method, however, I would suggest would be outline method, as it does not require any specific format to be drawn. That said, please note that note making takes practice to be executed during the exam in a limited time. However, if it is executed well, one need not write entire paragraph to find answers to many questions, and this in turn saves a lot of time. So that sums up our today's discussion, dear students. I hope you have enjoyed this lecture. Thank you.